Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing Podcast with Bill Hartzer for Thursday, August 19th, 2021. This week, I'm going to go ahead and talk about title tags and title tags of web pages. And wanted to go through this because the fact of the matter is that a lot of people have been talking about how Google this week has been kicking up their efforts overall with rewriting title tags. And, it's interesting to me that this is even coming up as a subject because sure, they may be doing this a little bit more aggressively than they have in the past. But when it comes down to it, Google has actually been rewriting our title tags and the search results for at least 10 years. And I remember working at an agency, a digital marketing agency, back in around 2010, 2010, 2011. So it would be put it at about 10 years. I remember them doing it even before that. But I remember specifically one particular case, which was a wedding venue, a destination wedding venue that I was working on, was a client in New Orleans. And it was very odd because I had taken the time to rewrite and optimize those pages for, let's say, 20 pages or so, 20 to 25 pages, maybe 40 pages at the most. And looking at the search results was interesting because I was always using, as writing a title tag, I was always using the pipe symbol. So we have keyword, pipe, name of company, or keyword, pipe, name of website, whatever. So I was always using the pipe symbol, and Google in particular was rewriting at that time. They were rewriting every single title tag on that particular client's website. And I had spent hours optimizing and rewriting and writing title tags and doing the keyword research and targeting one particular keyword per page and so forth. And I knew the keyword was in the title tag. Like, I knew it was the difference between, New Orleans wedding and wedding in New Orleans, and whether the word wedding was before or after the city name. And I was doing that very strategically. And lo and behold, Google come and rewrote every single title tag. And what I finally figured out was they were looking at that time, they were looking at the navigation, the keywords I was using in the navigation on the site. They were looking also at the breadcrumb trail and indications like that, looking at the web page, looking at the site in particular, and making that determination very specifically and saying, okay, we need to, and for some reason, in some cases where I was always writing the keyword at the beginning of the title tag, they would actually switch it and get rid of my pipe symbol and use a hyphen instead. So apparently Google prefers hyphens in rather than using pipe symbols, because they removed every single pipe symbol I had. So this is not something that is new. It may be that Google has started to maybe do this aggressively, or move it, not necessarily aggressively, but maybe do it to more sites in particular, and for certain reasons, and also maybe even testing things like looking at click-through rates and so forth, click-through rates of the search engine results. So when it comes down to it, let's say you've written a page, and on that particular page you've got, let's say, your title tag is keyword hyphen company name. And in that particular case, there's one particular keyword phrase that you're targeting, or one particular service. Well, if that page ends up ranking or showing up in the search results for, let's say, 20 different keywords, there's a good chance that in theory, Google could come up with 20 different title tags that they would show in the search results. Whereas where they are essentially looking at the search query that somebody did, for example, looking for wedding New Orleans or wedding venues New Orleans, and both those being plural, New Orleans and wedding venues, and then looking at a particular page, maybe your site, and seeing in the search results, wedding venues, New Orleans, but then another search for wedding venue, the singular, Google would change that search result so that it would say wedding venue or wedding venue in New Orleans. So in theory, your title tag would be changed. Obviously, they don't have access to the website. They're not actually changing your title tag on your web page itself. I mean, because they don't have access, and they don't do that. However, they're manipulating the search results and so forth. Let's talk about also meta description tags. So you have to keep in mind that, let's say you have a meta description tag that has, let's say you have a page that lists that is for a particular manufacturer, and you have maybe 10 different models, for example, that are listed on that one particular web page. If there's 10 different models and somebody searches for a particular make or manufacturer and model number, then the title tag could be changed in the search results because you've mentioned that particular model number on your page, and it's appropriate for you to rank for that. So they might change your title tag. They might actually pull content from your page and show the content that mentions the model number that they searched for. That might actually show up as a meta description tag or part of the meta description tag. So in that case, they might totally ignore your meta description tag and show in the search results where you would mention that model number up as a part of the page of the content. So does that mean that Google's now, Google then is changing your title tag, your meta description tag? Certainly they're not going to change the URL. They're I'm looking at search results right now, and they show the domain name, and then they show the like a caret symbol, and then they show part of the name, and part of that name. They don't show the full URL in results, but this is kind of a dynamic thing that Google's doing. They've been doing it for 10 years. And so as SEOs, we should not be surprised at all that they are going to change your title tag. And so there's not much at this point you can do. The only thing that I recommend is that you do look at the search results, look at your rankings, look at way Google is showing your results, and you're showing your actual site, your listing. Okay, so for searching for certain queries. So if there's a keyword, sure, your page may be ranking for 10 different keywords or 10 different keywords, that particular page. Look at the most frequently used keyword, that the ideal keyword for that page. Do a search, look at the title tag, wait a day, look at the title tag again, see if Google's determining it or changing it. Maybe use a unique identifier in that title tag, for example, like a hyphen versus a pipe symbol, or two colons. And that if Google's rewriting the whole thing, the whole title tag, and they remove the 2 colons, and you're using 2 colons in the middle of your title tag, then sure, they're rewriting it. I'm looking at my homepage of Hartzer.com, and if I do a site colon Hartzer.com, the name of the company, Hartzer Consulting, is at the beginning of the title tag, and I don't write it that way. I always put the keyword at the beginning of the title tag for every page. but they're rewriting it. So is it appropriate for me to go to my homepage and rather than saying, I'm using keyword hyphen Hartzer Consulting, change it to Hartzer Consulting hyphen keyword, or just removing it completely? That's a consideration that you need to look at as you go through and optimize pages. Again, other considerations. Are there any instances where Google is actually rewriting it and rewriting your title tag and it's wrong? And I've seen cases where maybe it's an extreme case where the title tag is being written or rewritten and it changes the user and the intent of the page. Maybe there's just a slight variation that they don't understand. I've happened to see that very frequently with Google in certain cases, especially when they're trying to get stuff right and trying to recommend in Google AdWords that you use certain certain keywords and bid on certain keywords, and it totally changes the intent of the phrase. So I won't go into any specific examples, but there are times when when a keyword will have just be a little bit different, and it'll completely change the meaning and even completely change the type of service that you provide. I've seen that. In dnprotect.com, which is the domain, which is a company I own or partly own, and I run, that protects domain names. We protect domain names and we recover stolen domain names. Okay, anything related to someone buying a domain name and sending that traffic to somebody who has stolen a domain name, that changes it's not appropriate because they haven't even bought the domain name yet. How can it be stolen? So there's certain cases where a slight variation of a keyword will completely change this particular meaning of the keyword. So back to title tags, Google will change them and will change them in the search results. That does not mean that you need to go to your title tag and change it. You should be considering why and looking to see, well, Google's changing it to this particular title tag. Is that what Google's changing it to? Is that appropriate for me to change my title tag on my particular page? Because frankly, this might be just a test and it might go on for a few weeks and then Google might actually understand your page a little bit better. And they might actually end up not changing it. But again, in the case of going back to the New Orleans destination wedding site, frankly, I went through, and this was certainly this was 10 years ago, when they were going ahead and changing every title tag of mine. I went through every single page again and determined, well, do I need to really change this? In fact, that case, Google was right, and I ended up changing the title tags, removing a pipe symbol, preferring a hyphen, doing small little changes to put put maybe the keyword in front of the city name versus the keyword after the city name. Slight little variations, but comes down to it, Google's not always right. They will be testing things. And like I said, you should be aware whether or not they are changing your title tags or not. It's a good learning lesson for all of us, because even though I know what I sell and I know what I sell on my site and what my product is, and I think I know best, there may be a case where they might open your eyes and say, well, they're changing it a little bit differently. Maybe we're getting more clicks. There's things you can do to look at the title tags, look at how they're changing the title tags, and also seeing if there's any data there where title tags have changed and whether or not you're getting a better click-through ratio or not. So on the search results and getting more clicks. That said, this has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for August 19th, Thursday, August 19th, 2021. We've been talking a little bit about title tags and why Google seems to be changing them. It's something that they've been doing for well over 10 years. And and how I recommend you dealing with this issue, and so forth. We bring this up this week because of the fact that it seems like Google has been doing some things to more aggressively change title tags, or they're changing title tags of more websites in order to get better results, and get people to click on search results a little bit more often than others. Again, thanks for listening this afternoon. I do have this podcast every Thursday at this time, and you should get an episode every week. I do welcome the opportunity for special guests in the digital marketing industry to appear. I'm also looking for anybody who is related to, does something related to websites or has questions about your website. You feel free to get in touch with me, and we can schedule for you to be on the podcast as well. But again, Thursday, August 19th, Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.